10.
Hello and welcome to LOP Radio on YouTube, on Spreaker, and wherever you get your podcast feeds. My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and this is LOP Radio on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, you would have heard just the extra little bit beforehand whilst I'm clicking about getting the YouTube thing ready. It's a nice little bonus for the podcast version. Like, there's bits before and there's bits after as well. Most people do save those for Patreons. Not me. Business mine. Not me. Unfortunately, I'm not. Well, today I kind of wanted to escape a bit because of the serious, difficult time occurring right now with the COVID-19 and everything, and people really in lockdown. We've seen in these past few days, both the UK and USA really enter those start to enter those peaking points, and the numbers, unfortunately, are going to keep doubling and doubling, and it's a crappy situation. And in my own house, I've got people working from home, so my desk that I normally use for the show was absolutely covered in stuff to do with work arrangements and things. So people doing actual work. So I sat down, finished everything with about 5 minutes left, and realised, right, now I can write my notes. So it's fair to say that tonight's show is going to be extremely free form compared to last week's kind of bullet pointy thing. The interaction on last week's show was amazing, keeping me up to date as news was breaking. Thank God this week it's a lot more slowed down. It's not as bad. I've not actually got YouTube open, so I can't actually see who's talking. There we go. Finally see who's talking to me. But I will be talking about the shows for WWE and AEW and how they are coping in this awful, crappy situation. How are the adjustments going down? Do they feel awkward? Are the shows actually still entertaining and watchable? So I want to talk about the actual product itself rather than getting bogged down in the depressingness of the actual world around, to escape a bit. Because, really, that feeling came across whilst I was watching AEW Dynamite from last night. It was just the thing of, I was able to escape in that. I just enjoyed the show. I wasn't constantly reminded of the crappy situation we were in or how awkward it all is to be doing something in front of an empty crowd. It's no, it was a genuine fun time and they told their stories. It was really easy to get invested into. They adapted their production and everything, and I'll get to them second because WWE is the big one, and I know in terms of retaining an audience, I should talk about WWE first and how they've gone to the Performance Centre. But also, I'm so rushed, I haven't even tucked my chair in. I'm sitting on the edge of the chair and I'm falling off it, so I apologise for the noise. Oh, there we go. Yeah. And my sound wall is too far back, but who cares? It's so rushed, I'm knackered, it's all over the place. Pretty certain we're live everywhere. I'll get to them. Yeah, unmuted, perfectly fine. And Spreaker's working fine. There's so many things to click about on. Right. Anyway, if you've got, I guess, opinions or things to throw in, just like last week, send me stuff in. There isn't brand new news flowing in constantly, so it isn't super necessary to throw news items my way. There's been quite a few big things over the course of time, but really want to focus on SmackDown Raw and the SmackDown Raw can put together really in one bracket, and AEW live from Jacksonville as well. So first, WWE and the Performance Centre, and this show might be quite short as well, given how knackered I am and there's more stuff to do. My work is in the teaching world, and we've had it announced that schools are going to be closing after Friday, so I've got no idea what my world's going to be like. I might be called in to help with stuff, or I might not. Who knows? So yeah. So anyway. Also, I'll do WWE. If there are any questions or things sent in, I will do WWE Performance Centre talk and the shows from there. Then I'll answer questions on that topic. Then with AEW, whenever I've done this before, AEW gets nothing. No one. I don't know why. I really enjoy AEW, but all the questions are for WWE. But yes, I'll read WWE questions, then AEW questions if there are any. So WWE with the Performance Centre, and of course the news of WrestleMania taking place over both days of the weekend. I think they said 2 days. I took that to mean Saturday and Sunday. I don't think they formally announced that. I just assumed that was what they're going to do. I saw somebody tweet they're stealing the Wrestle Kingdom idea. No. To be fair, it's one of those things where as WrestleMania's got longer and longer, it's been a suggestion that's been thrown out there. This isn't something that's come out of nowhere, this idea. It's the shows are getting longer and longer, so to try and get everybody on the cards, it made sense that this idea will be thrown about, and now this kind of like, they've been kind of forced to do it. It's a crappy situation for it to be tested, but yeah, and because 8 hours in front of an empty crowd would have been a bit of an ask, I think it's fair to say. But the actual shows themselves, going to focus on a bit. So, because I brought up WrestleMania, because these are like test cases for it. And you saw on SmackDown, they had a lot more wrestling action on SmackDown. Apparently the word coming out was Vince McMahon thought that wrestling, just pure wrestling in front of an empty crowd was a bit awkward. So Monday Night Raw had a lot more talky segments. And that obviously begs the question, well, but WrestleMania will be nothing but matches. So surely... going, I don't really like wrestling in front of an empty crowd, let's do loads of promos. You're going to hit a bit of a wall there when it comes to WrestleMania, 2 shows in a row. Maybe it's just for television, do more promos. Again, when you're building to WrestleMania, I can kind of forgive that anyway. You can get away with it, just doing loads and loads of promos instead of being... I can't really speak. Doing loads and loads of promos instead of like going through matches and things to try and build that way. You can at least go through the promo when you're this close to WrestleMania. That is your saving grace for WWE right now. But how do shows feel? Watching the shows from the Performance Center, obviously you see the empty crowd. They just talk about the situation. Both WWE and AEW did that. There's a kind of like serious talk with people in the ring. WWE went with the commentators, and AEW went with Cody, who's kind of like he's somebody who he's extremely relatable. He's really good at giving those genuine feeling promos. Whereas for me, he was kind of the perfect person to open the show like that. I don't think like Excalibur or Jim Ross would have kind of welcomed the show in such a manner to kind of reach that thing. But yeah, so WWE went with that thing. Immediately though, the awkwardness of the situation feels very apparent on both SmackDown and Monday Night Raw. SmackDown seemed to handle it comedy style with Triple H goofing about. That, for me, being aware of the situation and goofing about, SmackDown was really enjoyable because of that. And for me, Monday Night Raw, they tried to, in terms of the production and running of the show, they seemed to try to stick to the norm way too heavily. And Stone Cold acknowledged it. I mean, it felt like an Eric Andre sketch, but the bone-stacked thing at the end. But that's kind of because it felt, the awkwardness was just, it oozed into it. It truly oozed like an alcohol-based cake. It just fully oozed in. This is awkward, Byron. Hence why it felt so strongly like an Eric Andre sketch. But so the awkwardness of the situation feels apparent. And for me, I can't escape in that. I can enjoy it. So, especially for me, the wrestling is fine when it happens. The issue really is they haven't adapted their production enough. So they're trying to do the show they would kind of normally do with the kind of same format and breaking downs of it. But really, it needs a massive adaptation. And I feel like SmackDown did a much better job because of the Triple H goofing about stuff. They tried to just have some fun in this kind of crappy situation, whilst Monday Night Raw felt too much like it was trying to build to WrestleMania and be the serious wrestling show it always kind of is in parts. And for me, SmackDown did it better because of that kind of comedy aspect of what it's like, and then when the serious notes hit, you can do the serious notes, but playing it off with really Jerry Lawler, Tom Phillips, and Byron Saxton. I don't know. There's something about it which the awkwardness felt too apparent, like keeping what feels like the scripted commentator stuff, and doing that with no crowd. Like WWE's production style really relies on the crowd kind of reacting to it and stuff, and when there's no crowd to react, it's extremely awkward. And of course, the other thing that's not to their benefit is that they are packed inside the Performance Center. They are inside this smaller location, and basically with AEW being in an outside venue, I don't know what the rules are currently in America, but in terms of the earlier stages of the virus, the amount of people you can have in an outside venue compared to an inside is a lot higher because of, again, scientific. I guess the medical advice was inside venues were, you recommend a lot smaller groups than outside venues, whatever that reasoning is. Of course, as the virus spreads and it gets deeper and deeper into those peak points, you see what happens in across Europe with France, Spain, and Italy and Germany going to be like next on that list. The UK, assumably not far behind, where like you enter pure lockdown to try and spread the virus. So WWE, even though AEW had the massive advantage of being able to have like a few people in the crowd because of their outside venue status. However, once things progress, I don't know if they'll be able to do that like outside at all. I don't know to what level. Depends what America does. I don't, because I've not looked into like the degrees of lockdown in Italy. Because of course there's you're able to go to work, but you're not able to do anything unless you're like going to shopping, going to work, something. Like you have to have genuine reason to be out. I don't know if doing an outside venue would count. It is a like secured location, obviously, with it being that venue. Yeah, I don't know. So AEW might come into a little bit of trouble in terms of the production of the thing, but it felt so much a more the benefit of it feeling a bit more relaxed and a bit more entertaining because they could have other wrestlers in the crowd, but who weren't wrestling on the show, compared to WWE where it's that smaller arena. Like you got your skeleton crew for the production in the arena. You got your commentary team. Really, having 3 people on commentary probably uses one person in terms of how many people you can have in that room. That's one person who is not necessary. Like, if you definitely want Jerry Lawler, I guess, then you can have Jerry Lawler in there as well. Again, one thing that kind of made me laugh was Ryan sat in talking about the people at ringside. I was like, should Jake Roberts have been there? Because he was doing a tweet about it, and immediately I just thought, well, first off, those different rules for inside and outside venues. I don't know if it's the same in America currently. And again, as it progresses, those rules kind of get tighter. But obviously, I think if he tweets out that, I was like, well, you didn't tweet that for Jerry Lawler, he's a man with a heart condition in an inside venue where there would have been over 10 people likely. And personally, if you're doing a skeleton crew production, don't waste a person on 3 commentators. It's just like a little adjustment thing. It worked perfectly on SmackDown with the 2 people. They can joke about and stuff. It was, yeah, I didn't really dig the commentary thing, but yeah, it's really weird. You got the awkwardness of the situation feeling really apparent in the WWE production, so I'm struggling to escape. But it's mixed in with genuine feeling of trying to make the best of a crappy situation, and you've got the tense stage play drama coming out as well. Bray Wyatt going viral on Twitter with his speech to John Cena. People putting Twin Peaks music over the top of it as well, just to emphasise it. It's like, oh, this is like a dramatic theatre performance. It's just like the tension, like wrestling jumping from that high octane, crazy, mad world to to tense theatre drama. It's yeah. It did make me laugh when I saw those tweets. And Edge was kind of like a similar thing. Becky Lynch delivered quite a strong promo on Monday Night Raw as well, where for me, those serious promos, like the sit-down interview with Roman Reigns, like I liked that as well. The quiet situations, and another benefit for shifting, if WWE being in WrestleMania season, and if they want to do more promos, instead of having a lot of wrestling, the benefit of WrestleMania, and the fact that in a quiet crowd, those like promos and interviews work really well. And I can't really fault them. If you want to do more of that, because yeah, it'll be perfectly watchable, it'll be perfectly entertaining, I'll be fine with that. Because they generally work in a quiet audience, you can get engaged in what they're saying, like not constantly interrupted by chants and things, and the often overproduced nature of a WWE arena show isn't really there, because they're in a small arena, they're not going to be, and of course in a skeleton crew, you're not going to have a million cameras to jump between as well. So it all works really well in helping you get invested in what is being presented before you, where it's just like 2 people talking, nice and calm and relaxed, and it works wonders. So that is, for me, one thing, if they're over the course of time going to be making adjustments, because who knows how long this will last for, like being optimistic, or not optimistic, being, from what I can see, what other places, kind of the trajectory of it, and the kind of worrying situation of the handling of it in America. Again, I don't want to go too much into that because it's more about the shows. This is more about how long might this last. My big example, if WWE were to delay WrestleMania to the rumoured date of early June, I think it was like 7th or 8th or 6th or something like that, that would be extremely optimistic. Looking at how other countries are doing, like booking a WrestleMania for early June, expecting to be able to do a live show in front of a crowd, that's extremely optimistic. Like here in the UK, our like peak point is expected to be like April/May. And USA is around a similar point to us. Like, our trajectories are... obviously, they're massively differently sized countries with... obviously, you've got the massively different context in how we're handling it as well. Doesn't mean one's better than the other. It just means different. Who knows how it will go for either country. But with our peak point expected to be late April, early May, then like early June as a point of doing shows again. Don't bank on it. Is all I'm saying. And in terms of how long these shows last, like this with no crowd, it could be a few months, like not just a month, or it could be a couple of months, or even if like people are allowed out with a bit more freedom after the peak is reached, then that could last 2 months. That kind of, if you enter a lockdown period, that could last 2 months. And we're towards the end of March, and the USA and UK, we're not at that peak point yet. We're not on that we've not reached lockdown yet. Whilst across Europe, more and more countries have reached that status. And Italy still obviously they've had a massive breakout, but still on lockdown. So these shows might last a while. To bring it back pretty quickly, these shows might last a while, and who knows how long they'll have to do it for. So in terms of like learning from it and making adjustments, like my number one takeaway is with the WWE style of production, and if they want to continue doing the shows this way, promos really work in this quiet situation. These shows you have to write them and make them, you have to put effort into these working. WrestleMania season, it kind of lends it naturally, but WWE have often in the past, after WrestleMania, they'll enter a little bit of a lull. And as in, that doesn't mean it's always bad, that just means it's not, the creative high peak isn't at that point, and that might not lend itself to this slightly lighter on the wrestling, heavier on the promo approach to these Performance Center shows. And really just the sense of fun, that was what Monday Night Raw was missing for me. Obviously the later stages, and you got silly Byron, oh he's so childish, that Byron, oh he's such a good mother's boy, oh he's delightful. But for me, I'm fine with the serious kind of angles. Like I'm applauding SmackDown. I'll get to the next kind of con that they kind of did. But I was applauding SmackDown. It had those serious moments, had those jokey moments. Triple H was helping carry the show on a jokey fashion, keeping it entertaining. But when it wasn't in those like dramatic moments where you really had, I guess, two scattered throughout the show, where you had Edge and you had Becky Lynch, and you had Ray versus Humberto, then Stone Cold at the end. It was Undertaker, AJ Styles. I forgot. Yeah, I completely forgot about that weird thing. Yeah, that's an interesting build. But they're doing that, and like the fun wasn't there throughout the middle portion of the show. I have to say middle portion because there was my biggest con, and in the feeling the awkwardness of the situation, and again mixed in with the genuine feeling of trying to make the best of a crap situation, like the airing of past events, I feel like past matches to fill up time. Like when you see something like that and it's there to take up a big chunk of time. So in terms of creative and production, they don't have to do such a big thing. I don't know if this is in the arena problem where they can't have too many people there, so they have a skeleton crew, and that includes, I guess, the on-screen cast where it's a skeleton crew. Again, then why are you wasting a cast member on 3 people on commentary? This person wouldn't do that if that's the issue. Because with WrestleMania, you're going to have more people. And for all I know, that's why they split it, rather than people might struggle to watch a incredibly long show with no crowd. But it could also just be the amount of people at the venue. They couldn't have 2 shows worth, maybe. Who knows? Wouldn't be surprised if the Battle Royals are both cancelled. I say wouldn't be surprised. Given as well that, again, we're not at the peaks yet, the numbers are going to continue to rise, and the lockdowns and rules are going to get more and more enforced. There's also the chance that WrestleMania won't happen at all. And because that was with the AEW, they were pretty wise in their advertising for next week, where they announced matches, but they said the next time we have Dynamite. They didn't say anything about anything else. They didn't actually put a date on it. It's just whenever we are live next, who knows when that is, this is what will happen. So if the other benefit of not having a show right on the corner, because they've just done their pay-per-view, they've got a big time gap to work with, which is pretty good for them. WWE don't have that. They've got a couple of weeks, and it's WrestleMania. So, yeah. But, yeah, the big con with WWE, when I'm already feeling the awkwardness of the situation, I'm not really doing that well to forget it. And then a whole hour is taken up by replaying a match. In terms of like rewatching it, for me, I was like, oh, this saves me an hour. Suddenly the 3 hour Monday Night Raw where almost 1 hour is already taken up by adverts, and then now I've got a full hour which is taken up by the Men's Royal Rumble. Suddenly I can watch this 3 hour show in 1 hour. And I'm not really skipping that much, which I was like, oh, this is great. I can actually spend time writing the weekly column, which is pretty much going to be on this same topic here. I can spend time on that. I can do like a Photoshoppy thing. Save my time on Thursday. So it's a weird. What it did do is it brought again the apparentness of the situation. So if I'm trying to escape and just enjoy an entertaining show, forget what's going on in the wider world, replaying a match like to take up that amount of time, it's blatant in its like it's just blatantly, oh yes, the situation, the filling time, you feel it, which is what AEW did so well, was to not do that and to fill the time and tell their stories, and I was able to get invested in the show, which I'll get to later. But yeah, with WWE, it feels very, very apparent right now that it's like you're being constantly reminded how awkward it all is, and this sucks, but we're doing the best we can, kind of thing. Like I wasn't really getting super invested in the world or the stories of the characters, and like relating it as a TV show, because again, that's why it mixes in with the genuine feeling of trying to make the best of a crap situation, because you can kind of forgive it. It's one of those where I'm going to be jumping through these shows. I'm not going to be paying avid attention, but yeah. So yeah, right. So NXT, I've not watched. So I've applauded SmackDown, not really Monday Night Raw. With NXT, I've not watched it yet, but I have heard that it's very VTR video package heavy, which is like really the biggest difference between AEW and WWE, as I was just saying, with the empty arena shows. One was pure escapism, and the other felt like you were regularly reminded of the situation, which sucks. So yeah, I feel like I'm repeating myself quite a bit. So I guess let's bring up the questions just to see. If you sent that in, I've just seen Colin saying a bit repetitive. Yeah, that's amazing. If you sent that in at the same time, that's pretty incredible. Just me, like, I need to move on because I'm running out of. There's not really much to say. I've already dragged it out too much, and I need to jump to AEW, and then I can kind of wrap it up in a way. Kind of ironic when I'm talking about WWE trying to fill time, and I'm just like, this is a bit. I feel like I've said everything I need to say, and then I'm going around in circles. So that's instead of filling time, let's just jump to the next thing and maybe end it early because it's AEW. I've a lot to talk about on the AEW show. With WWE, it was fine, I guess. AEW got lots to talk about. So WWE question. WWE is the Matt Frat reality TV. WWE is already on a steady decline in ratings and the stock market. Could this be the death blow? No, they'll be fine. There's got the massive audience problem. WrestleMania is always a massive attraction as well. I don't know if it could. I don't know if it would damage it at all. I don't know if postponement was a wise idea, because just postpone to when? Who knows how long this will last? It's a crappy situation. Like, it's really difficult to work around. And with wrestling, it's one of the things where you look at it and look what's happened in Japan, where they're obviously much further ahead than this in the West. And New Japan Pro Wrestling is full on cancelled, like everything, continuous postponement, like the sports over here in the West. They're postponing it. They're checking it again every few weeks to see, well, shall we cancel the next load of shows or not? And then they have cancelled the next load of shows. So who knows how long this will last? Because I'm talking about a crappy situation, but there's always the next chance that they can't do the shows come next week. So, and which again rules out WrestleMania completely. Then what do? Do they just cancel it? Do they whatever? It's not an easy situation no matter what happens. It won't be the death blow. They've made so much money from the overseas stuff that purely as a company they'll be able to operate. It was and obviously the stock goes down in uncertain times, and it's fair to say that this is bloody uncertain. And you've seen what's happened to the stock market in the US. Like, they are really, really struggling in this current situation, where of course people aren't spending as much as they are because they're so conscious about money, given that some people haven't got the income. So it's not certain times, therefore things are all over the place in terms of the uncertainty, and like in terms of like as a country, America is infighting pretty strongly right now. And to be fair, the guy at the top isn't helping. When you hear him talk, he's seemingly focusing on really weird stuff, and I don't know. It's kind of like, why are you doing this now? Why are you doing things to kind of help build your base for a campaign for your re-election? Which it kind of comes across as. And it's not like, normally I'll be like, nah, I don't really mind. You can politicians all the time use like a seriously thing and kind of twist it for the base, but on this it's like, it's the Chinese virus thing. I'm drifting. I didn't want to talk about other stuff. But with the Chinese virus thing, it's like, well, that's where it came from. It's like, yeah, but everyone else, this is, again, just in America that you're calling it that. Everyone else is just calling it COVID-19 because that's the name that was given to it by the people researching it or looking into it. They gave it COVID-19, coronavirus disease 2019. That's its name. So it's being done for a reason, and I'm just like, this isn't the time for this bollocks. America needs even if you don't agree with what they're saying, they need a leader for some form of guidance, and you saw it from the governor of New York, whatever his name is. I'm not American. The fact I followed this amount, I'm pretty proud with, but it's you saw it from the governor of New York almost pleading for leadership or some form of guidance or something to kind of help them, but states are on their own, and he's out there. He was previously lashing out at states. He's blamed called the Washington governor or somebody or mayor or someone, called the governor person a snake after they had their breakout. Like this isn't the time for that bollocks. You need to be actually a leader and helping today was the first time I heard him say it's nobody's fault. Where it's kind of like, it's taken 3 months to get to that point, and now you're doing the Chinese virus thing, trying to shift the blame outside of America to a Chinese place. Like, why are you even blaming? Why are you even playing that game? This is pure politics, though. It always happens. Oh, thank God I haven't got my former co-host Bern on. We're both so interested in world politics that we end up just spending ages talking about that. But yeah, so the bringing it back, who knows how long this will last, and I felt like I drifted so far. I was talking about that and the stock market. That was answering a question. And I already brought up the repetitive comment because I'd already said it myself and it made me laugh. Most people wouldn't read out that kind of comment, but I just said it myself. So it made me laugh that I saw it. Right, I've not actually checked Spreaker. No, it's only Kath on Spreaker. Who comments? Kath is a regular fan. Love having you checking every time. Right, AEW, and then I'll sign off. Again, I rarely get questions about AEW. Let's talk it. So, they were live from Jacksonville. Forgotten the name of the arena. Not written it down because, again, these notes were so last minute. The shot I've used on the image was Cody at the start of the show talking about just the awful situation, and they're going to do their best. The gravity of being in the position that they are in to deliver entertainment, to just give you a bit of escapism for a little amount of time. Shows the importance of the arts in this kind of time to kind of calm people and just give them a little break from the crap, the awful world at the moment. AEW did an amazing job of adapting and creating 2 hours of television you could escape for, or you could escape into for a tad, which was it was for me. I kind of had a bit of a week. I'm assuming most people have. And shout out to Clive from the Ricky and Clive show, also 205 Clive, who writes on the Laws of Pain website, who's obviously, to shout out to him at the moment, who's struggling with real life stuff. But so it was a really crappy time for everybody, and AEW gave me that escapism. I was watching it for the column, I was making my notes, and I was just like, I'm able to get lost in this. I'm enjoying what I am watching. I'm getting into the stories and the characters and with them all interacting with each other. MJF and Sean Spears at ringside with their hijinks. Jake Snake Roberts making faces. My favourite face was after Jungle Boy is when the Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus had won the match, and Jungle Boy was meant to dive through the ropes to stop the Butcher from definitely getting in. And he went through the ropes, and Butcher never got up from earlier. So he did the rebound off the ropes and then dived outside through the middle, and then just saw him and just kicked him. And Jake Snake Roberts in the crowd gives an amazing reaction. He's kind of puts his hand to his head, just just laughing at him, just oh dear, that was awkward and not great. His reaction there was fantastic, and his promo later in the night. I was like, it was awesome. He's such a great promo, and the fact that he's again in a quiet crowd. It's like, oh, this is the perfect Jake the Snake aura to be giving. Also not forgetting that Jake the Snake, like back in the 80s, he would deliver his promos in those backstage bits, and it reminded me so much of that. Just listening to him like that, it was so awesome to listen to that promo. The Lance Archer VTR video package with him beating up a load of people. Immediately I was just thinking, is that Matt Hardy's back garden? But that tells you how much I know about America, where like each backyard location to me, is that the same backyard location as before? I can't tell the difference of different states or places. I know Lance Archer, I think he's from Dallas because of the claw, the Texas thing, and the Von Erich stuff to do with that. So yeah. But yes, AEW did an amazing job of adapting. I really enjoyed the show. They shifted about their production as well. Having the wrestlers at ringside was a fantastic, again, shift of production because it gave a different... There were like side narratives going on throughout the show with MJF and Sean Spears. Sean Spears eating constantly, pointed out by Jeff and Dynamite After Dark, just constantly eating. He also had a full bottle of wine. I think it was Merlot. Well, didn't really pay attention. Just went straight through that. And on the other side, Colt Cabana, Sonny Kiss, Joey Janela, probably others. Dustin came out for the main event. Like, you could hear that the way more chipper tone in my voice. Like AEW, they just put on a show. I was able to escape, and I really needed that. And it's just like thumbs up and a massive thank you for that. Because my major difference between AEW Dynamite and WWE this week was, one, you felt the awkwardness of the situation the entire time, and I wasn't really able to escape into the world they were selling. I was able to be kind of entertained, apart from like the 1 hour I skipped. I was just taken up by something. But with AEW, I was able to escape into it and get invested in the world just like any other TV show. And that was so welcome. I haven't watched Westworld yet. I need to get round to that. It's I'm somebody who watches Westworld, but I've not bloody watched episode 1. It's near the end of the week. But yeah, AEW was able to escape into. Really, really loved it. And the fact that they continue to build to Blood and Guts as well. Chris Jericho commentary was hilarious, fantastic. The Inner Circle, just so entertaining as well. It was, especially with the wrestlers as well. Someone pointed out that there's a lot more kind of strike offense or flashy stuff like the Lucha Bros versus the Best Friends, which was really high octane moves mixed in with the like loud chops and things, and you could hear people talking within the match, and it really, really worked. I want to say that came on for the rest of the show, but I was kind of I wasn't analysing it that much by that point. I was just enjoying watching it, which again, I desperately needed. That was great to see. And by the time the main event came about, like, you felt the stakes as well. Like, they continued to sell the story, and again, it's just one of those things where you watch Hangman Page, and it's just like, they have done such a good, fantastic rehab job with him, and with his character, and just watching him and Matt Jackson's interactions, like, it doesn't matter that there's not a crowd to react off of those reactions, they're still telling the story, and watching the two characters interact is just perfect. They're building so damn well, and the two reveals on the show as well, which, again, it kind of sucks that this wasn't in front of a live crowd, because the pops for both of them would have been great, or the reactions to it, or especially with the Dark Order being built for so long, and Matt Hardy is a genuine, just out of nowhere thing, given how recent his WWE release was as well. Again, that's not they've signed AEW guys. It's Luke Harper was like always, whilst he was still employed with WWE, he was like so strongly linked off. If he ever gets released, he's like the Revival. When the Revival get released, they're going to AEW. Like, it's one of those where WWE will be like, we know where they're going, and I don't know what they've done to try and help that, but yeah, maybe for all I know, that's why they're off television, to try and diminish their value. Where I doubt it'll work. Like, fans will remember the Revival, especially with the Young Bucks interactions and stuff. So yeah, for me, Brody Lee was kind of like that, where he was always destined to be going to AEW. And the fact that he's now here in a big role as well, which is kind of awesome to see. I know somebody put out a list of all... so far, AEW have signed and gave a list, and they're all former WWE guys. And I retweeted somebody, I don't know if they commented on that, but the conversation kind of was out there today with the two debuts of Matt Hardy and Brody Lee, aka former Luke Harper. You know what that means. And... So that conversation was out there about them signing former wrestlers. Of course, that was always a thing with TNA, where TNA would bring in a former WWE guy and immediately push him to the top. So, of course, isn't really suddenly they're now the main event guy challenging for the champion when he's the fifth man in a 10-person match and he's not the main person. It's not quite the equivalent. Brody Lee being revealed as the leader of Dark Order, he's going to be a major character. But again, both guys have history, such strong history with the people inside the promotion. So it's not out of nowhere, it's just a WWE name. Like the day before, like literally the day before WrestleMania where the Hardys returned, the Hardys were wrestling the Young Bucks in Ring of Honor. Like 24 hours before. And to kind of exemplify, or exaggerate, well, I guess I'll stick with them, emphasise, there we go. To emphasise the fact of their friendship. Like, again, Matt Hardy kind of felt like whenever he'd leave, there was the rumours about NXT, but the immediate ones were going to AEW. So that's kind of cool, I guess, with Matt Hardy there. But the whole thing of the list of wrestlers, the one that made me laugh on terms of like people who AEW have signed, and they're all former WWE wrestlers. Actually, before I get to that, I've realised I dropped another point. The people, I told you this would be loose form. The people who are, so the, bloody hell, so the people who are kind of talking in this manner, somebody just put it perfectly, just saying that WWE were the only game, or the biggest game in town for about just under 20 years. So of course, any wrestler of note with a name in the Western world who can maybe draw, every one of them would have been through WWE. So it's not like, how come they can't... It's this weird thing where it's lose-lose for, I guess, a certain type of fan, where, I don't know these people, who are these people? I'd rather there be a wrestler that I like, and then if you do sign, if you like that wrestler, that means they need to have been known, and to have been known in the last little while, they must have been in WWE. But as soon as they bring in a WWE person, they have that other reaction of, they're signing WWE people. How dare they just sign WWE people? It's like, well, which one is it? Because you got angry at both of them, and of course the building stars thing takes time, and to get people to tune in, you need recognisable names, but all the recognisable names are former WWE guys. So if you can't have former WWE guys, how the hell do you get recognisable names? And how do you build young stars without those recognisable names to put them over? Yeah, it's lose-lose. Criticise no matter what. But to then finally take it back to my final point, the list of names on there, obviously you had the big ones like Chris Jericho, John Moxley, added on there Matt Hardy and Brody Lee. The one that stuck out was Cody Rhodes. Whoever it was, I can't remember the Twitter handle, probably, again, I didn't have any time, 5 minutes before I was live, was when I started my very loose notes. But with the Cody Rhodes being on that list, I was just kind of like, that's like putting Jeff Jarrett on the list of TNA wrestlers that they took from WWE. It's like, you wouldn't put Jeff Jarrett on the list of people that TNA brought in to then put over as a former WWE person. The guy invented the thing. AEW, one of the main people in AEW existing is Cody Rhodes. It's a little bit weird to put him on the list of former WWE guys that they signed and then pushed. It's like, but he's one of the main, and he completely reinvented himself after leaving WWE over the course of 3 or 4 years. Whenever he left in 2016, I think. No, yes, he left in 2016 because he was at WrestleMania 32. Yeah, so Cody left in 2016, completely rebuilt himself over the next 3 years. Then by the time AEW launches, this is massively over, beloved babyface on an incredible scale that reminds me so much of the love for Dusty. It's, for what I've seen of Dusty, obviously I wasn't born until 1992, but you get the point, the archive footage is still there. But it's for me, it's really, really weird just to see. It's like, you put them on the list, but ignore all context. I keep forgetting, Twitter's not the place for context, is it? You have to make your black and white point, and grey areas don't exist, our context doesn't exist, I'm making my point, damn it. No, these things do exist in the world off of Twitter. So, now my big recommendation with social media is just get off it, talk to people just outside of social media, and just, it's really good to make sure that you see the world for the bloody complex thing it is. On social media, it kind of gets pushed to this black and white, good or bad kind of feeling, and that's not how the world works. So that's for me my biggest downside of that, because I don't engage with a lot of the dark side of Twitter or the trolling on Twitter. I just ignore it. I tend to not get involved in any of the arguments, rarely, unless it's with like people that I know. then I rarely will chip in on something or have a go at someone. Today I was tired, I think I did. I might have deleted it afterwards. It's just, yeah. But yes, in closing, AEW, I was so happy that I was able to escape into this world just for 2 hours. And I watch on Fight TV as well, so I get the full 2 hours. I get them joshing about in the breaks. The commentators were so fun this week. Excalibur, Taz, and Jim Ross, it felt like they had a really fun time. And that came across on the commentary as well. It came across from when I was watching it. I enjoyed the show. I was able to escape. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Right, I'm repeating myself again, which tells me I'm finished. It's happened. Right. And there has been, I will check Spreaker as well. Again, it's only Kath, and Kath's not available. It's just, yeah, hardly anyone. Apart from when WWE really annoy people. Like, that's the only time I get comments on Spreaker. Either if Kath's able to tune in, one of the regular fans, or if WWE have pissed everybody off. That's the only time I get comments on Spreaker. Otherwise, it's just the YouTube stuff. So, anyway, I'm thankful for everybody who comments. I'm not saying I value Spreaker more. It's just a little. I think I value YouTube. Anyway, Safet Cekovic. I'm saying, yeah. Also with that, that's just reminding me of Dijakovic. Just like, I want to say Dijakovic. It's really irritating. It's Dijakovic. I wouldn't say the name as Kakovic, which is essentially what's being, yeah. Anyway, this coronavirus is getting crazy. I hope it goes away and everything gets back to normal. It's one of those, fingers crossed, we're seeing the peaks. We've seen South Korea and China die down. With China currently, it's the dying down, really, then people go back out, hospitals close. Apparently there's been no new cases yesterday, I don't know about today. But the worry in doing that is, what if the virus comes back? Once you get people back out there, does it spread again? We don't know, because this is a brand new thing. We still don't really know that much about it. And in terms of the scientific research, in the scientific world, they're doing incredible research, incredible showing between people from all over the world, and it just takes time, unfortunately. It's one of those where people are really optimistic it will go away. So the question is, what damage is done in the meantime? What happens to, not just, there's the people, there's the economies, there's the, I guess, relationships in the time, the locking down, what's that done to people as well as business? It's, like, in terms of, like, just pissing people off as well. Like, my brother's wife works in retail at a jewellery store. That's still open. It's kind of like, that is so non-essential. Why the hell is that store still open? And it's like the news about GameStop as well, where like she's in a very, because it's not. I saw the news about GameStop, and like that's exactly the same thing that's happening to my brother's wife, where they've not got any hand sanitizer provided to them. They've got a sink in the back to wash their hands in, but somebody's got to be on the floor all the time, and they're understaffed. So when the hell are they going to wash their hands? Yeah, it's just little things. That's what's currently happening in the UK, I guess. But yeah, we've got daily briefings from a Prime Minister and some experts, so that's really, really helping inform people, just to get the message out there. In terms of recommendations, yeah, I've seen the New York governor's kind of just started doing something like that, and from what I can tell, it's working, but that's just from the snippets I've seen. I don't actually know. It's just him being there as a vocal voice. If the president's not going to lead them, then I guess the leaders of individual states will have to step up and do it, which really worries me about the states which are more in line with the Trump thing. Well, people in power even more in line with that. It's just like, will they take leadership and just take action that desperately needs to be taken, whilst there isn't any leadership from the top? It doesn't mean there won't ever be. It just means currently there isn't. So, yeah, I've drifted again into politics. I didn't want to do it. It's because it's so tightly. This whole thing is so tightly tied to it in America. You're from New York. Oh, that's a massive coincidence. So here in the UK, it's London, which shouldn't surprise anybody. Which I'm assuming it's the same situation with New York, where it's such a hub that it's like a hotbed for the thing. And it's I know our numbers in London are doubling incredibly quickly, and that's where a major worry is. And all of the advice given by the Prime Minister and the scientific experts that speak with him, like, is to take extreme caution with all the things we're telling you if you live in the major city of like London. And I'm assuming New York is very similar. I saw the 50% workforce thing as well. It's one of the things where I've had it on in the background because it's nice to kind of get updated on all of that stuff. It's a crappy situation. It sucks. It could last. God knows how long this will last. At least people are still relatively positive that they will be able to shake this off by the end of the year. I guess it should mean the vaccine won't arrive in terms of like current progress, the thought is it won't arrive till the end of the year, and we won't really know in terms of the fading away thing of it until we see with China. But China were extremely strict with their lockdowns and getting people into hospitals. It's one of those things where the joke I was making at the time, I put in a column that I deleted this week because there was misinformation in there or misunderstood information, and I was like, I could correct the stuff, but the comments pointing those things out will always be on the column, so I've just deleted it. It's rather, I guess, save the integrity of having a column with misinformation there, just get rid of it. But one of the things I had in there was, in China you might have been dragged by your ankles to the hospital, but the healthcare was free. It's just, it was free though. So, so they were really strict in like testing people, getting them into hospitals to the point where there was footage of people being dragged out of their apartments to the hospitals. I don't think that's what I mean by the different context between different nations. Like in terms, you have to, according to the people from WHO, you have to analyse it country by country because no country is the same in terms of like the climate of the thing beforehand and how they've handled it. Like it's different between everybody, and of course, UK and US are a major advantage that we can learn from those other countries rather than just block them and blame them. We can learn from what happened there, and that at least those talks are about in both countries, like seeing what's happened, taking that information. New York, from what I can tell, are taking massive inspiration from what's happening in European countries in terms of how to do it, what not to do, what to do it better. Los Angeles, they're another fantastic example of doing something which has had a massive effect, where they shut all the schools, they closed a lot of stuff, but that's had a massive impact on their kind of healthcare infrastructure and those key individuals that are needed, because that was a phrase used by Boris Johnson yesterday, where key individuals, those kids will stay in school because they are needed. LA closed the schools with no such plan like that, and that's a lesson you can take. It sucks for LA if anyone lives in LA, obviously. I don't know if they've fixed it since, but that's why New York has done what it's done, I'm assuming. They've seen what happened in LA. It's like, well, we can't just close everything and expect everything to work the same. Like, no. People who work in hospitals have kids. Suddenly, if they can't work at the hospital because their kids are home, obviously that has an effect. So, that 50% workforce, see if that works. We can learn from that. So, yeah. I did say earlier I wasn't going to get too much into it, but yeah. The positive thing for me is AEW put on a show that I really enjoyed. WWE put on a show that I enjoyed in parts and was able to watch quickly because I just replayed matches, which again, the issue being that I felt like I was being constantly reminded of the awkwardness of the crappy situation in AEW. I was able to escape. That's the major difference for me. Who knows, WWE might take influence from what AEW did and maybe focus a bit strong on story. They seem to be focusing strong on promos, which I thought worked. AEW put on just... The wrestling worked, and because they had invested in the crowd, there was at least people to react to it, so it wasn't as awkward as pure silence. It was like a smattering, in a way. Yeah. But yeah, for me, AEW adapted better, but they adapted better in the kind of show they were doing. WWE seemed to didn't want to veer too far from the normal path, and that maybe cost them. Whilst AEW were like, we're just gonna do a loose fun show, and that worked really well. So yeah. So anyway, thank you for listening to all of this. This is a little bit shorter than normal, like understandable given the situations. That the fact that I've been able to throw this together in the time I had is for me incredible. Just the pace at which I was rushing about with before I went live here was insane. I've run out of stuff to really say about this. So thank you for listening. Hopefully I'll be back next week. I'll put something out on Twitter, obviously, depending to see what happens. Who knows what the state of everything will be in a week's time. It's changed so much in just this 1 week. It changes so much from like day to day. That again, the daily briefings we got over here are so useful because of that. Obviously then you get pissed off when something that you feel like really needs to be addressed isn't. But there's so many things to be addressed that it's also understandable. Yeah, it's a sucky situation. But hopefully I'll be back next week. I'll have the escapism to talk about again. If I had a bit more, maybe I should try and get a guest for next week to try and fill a bit more time because people are stuck at home. Then maybe you want content to kind of pass the time away. I'll see what I can do there. Maybe if I find the time to do it, even if I've got the time to do this show, I'll tweet out stuff. But yeah, thank you for listening. I should be back here next Thursday. I'll tweet if I'm not. Who knows what I'm going to do for WrestleMania as well? I'm doing 2 aftershocks. I'm British. I'm English. Doing 2 aftershocks is like mental. I don't know what I'll be doing, but I'll be I'll be hopefully live next week. But please do check out our other shows. Again, all of these shows are, I guess, subject to change given the current situation. Like, who knows what life will be like for these people by the time it's time to air the shows. So just an asterisk on everything. But I'll be hopefully back next Thursday. Live after AEW Dynamite, we have our immediate recap show in Dynamite After Dark with Jaman and Jeff. That one is currently up on the podcast feed. I'll try and get it up onto the YouTube feed tomorrow. Yeah, it's their immediate show. I need to get that quicker, but obviously today, circumstances obviously a bit more important. Fridays is the Legacy series talking about NWA Power. NWA Power is now currently on hiatus with everybody else, so I don't know what they'll be doing. They might go on hiatus until NWA come back. Saturdays is reserved for our All Elite coverage with their pay-per-views. Sundays reserved for WWE's pay-per-view coverage. Obviously WrestleMania coming up. Maybe we'll do something. And what do we do? Tuesdays is Kingdom of Honor with Jaman and Jeff, where they talk about all this other stuff. Wednesdays might be me if I shift because of AW Dark already being on Wednesday. Currently, it was Sports Entertainment is Dead with Plan, who has recently ended, and we'll try and fit that in. Stay safe as well, other commentator, who was flipping back and forth with AW and NXT, which I hear a lot of Americans do. Jeff, the crazy person, who covers Dynamite After Dark, has in the past had NXT on one device and AW on the other device simultaneously. The crazy man. And then he has a show on one of them. Like, how do you focus? I can't do that. Anyway, I'll hopefully be back next week just for a little bit of escapism. Thank you for listening to all of this. With that, I bid you adieu. Adios.